and I've talked about in general terms before that bioethics is just another form of crypto-eugenics. The eugenicists who believe that they are genetically superior to you and I, and thus they have the right to rule over us and to weed our genes out of the gene pool, have just found different ways to do this. And it doesn't look like Nazis, and it doesn't goose step, but if it's still eugenics by any other name, then it's still just eugenics. And we've talked about the ways that that's been fed into the overpopulation fear-mongering as a way of slipping eugenics in the back door. And we've talked about, obviously, the environmental movement and carbon footprints and all of this as another way of getting eugenics back into public discourse. But bioethics, it's something I've alluded to, is basically eugenics by another name. And this report that I did, I really hope you'll pick it up. I hope you'll take a look at this information because it spells it out absolutely 100% black and white, cannot be refuted. Bioethics is very much founded on and springs from eugenics. And I do not say that lightly. So just reading from that report, which really does spell it out. In 1968, the Population Council and the Rockefeller family provided funds for Daniel Callahan to found the Hastings Center, one of the earliest and most influential of the academic bioethics research institutes, boasting many of the leading bioethicists as fellows, including Ezekiel Emanuel, yes, Rahm Emanuel's brother, and Peter Singer. The link is made even more transparent by the fact that the founding director of the Hastings Center, Theodosius Dobzhansky, was a chairman of the American Eugenics Society from 1964 to 1973, while Hastings' founder Callahan became a director of the Eugenics Society from 1987 to 1992. Once again, the facts are right there in front of everyone's face. The premier think tank, the first think tank, the one that is still regarded as the most distinguished think tank that all the famous bioethicists come from, was founded by a avowed eugenicist and a member of the Eugenics Society, and its first director was the chairman of the Eugenics Society. Once again, the dots are right there. It's like a connect the dots where there are only two dots. There is no other way to connect them. Eugenics, bioethics. There is a straight line. There is historical continuity. And what does this all mean? Well, for people who don't even know what bioethics is, again, I would recommend that report to you. But basically, this is the priestly class of academics who claim to have the authority to be able to speak and pronounce on these sticky issues that we get into when we start talking about modern biological sciences and specifically medical sciences and all of the crazy technologies that are coming out and which really are more and more a part of the world we're living in. How should we deal with them? What kinds of stances should we take on this? Well, this is what the bioethicists claim to be able to pronounce on. And as people like Tony Chaikin of the Executive Intelligence Review have pointed out, that really the Hastings Center and the work that they were doing in the early years was all about just basically mainstreaming discourse about euthanasia and getting end-of-life care to be talking about pulling the plug on granny in order to save a few teachers, as Bill Gates likes to go around promoting these days. So once again, it's all about this idea of demeaning and devaluing life and talking and weighing it the scales in terms of money and things like this so that we can all become engaged in this debate about how best to kill off people that we don't find a burden on society. And of course, it's people say, oh, that's just a slippery slope argument. That doesn't mean anything. Well, exactly like in the abortion argument, there are people who say, well, you know, it will lead to the demeaning and devaluing of life. And people say, oh, that's just silly. Well, of course, now we have the bioethicists coming out with their research papers about how, well, if we have abortions, why don't we just carry that on till after the baby is born? Yes, why not the first year of life? It's still not a viable being by itself. We can kill them just like we can kill a fetus. And again, you can't make this stuff up. This is what is now being argued by the bioethicists. And again, it's just part of the mainstreaming of the discourse and getting it spoken of in this professorial way to get us all to go along with it. So once again, it's extremely important to keep all of this in mind and to keep our eye on the bioethicist ball, as it were. So on that note, why don't we turn our eye to the Hastings Center, or perhaps lend our ear to the Hastings Center, this false front for the eugenicists, founded by a eugenicist and with its founding director, also a eugenicist, members of the Eugenics Society, in fact, chairs of the Eugenics Society. And let's see what they're talking about. So, of course, they have a website which you can go to find out more about what they're talking and thinking about. And they also have a YouTube if you'd like to see some videos. And on that note, let's turn to a video that they have up on their YouTube YouTube channel. It was posted on November 19th, 2010, and it's called Synthetic Life, the New Industrial Revolution, ? And it's a speech given by Gregory Kabnick, who is a research scholar at the Hastings Center, and he's talking about this bioethics in regards to synthetic biology. So